Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about tropical versus sidereal astrology and get to the bottom of which one is more accurate. So I feel like in the recent months, weeks, etc., I've been seeing in my comments, in my DMs, people asking about tropical versus sidereal. And if you didn't know already, there's two main mathematical systems we use to perceive astrology. So one is tropical and the other is sidereal. So on my channel, I've talked about tropical astrology, and the birth chart you probably use as of right now is tropical. However, there is sidereal astrology that exists. So we're going to talk about which one is more accurate, which one is better. I feel like there's been sort of a debate about which is which and the truth and facts of each one, and I'm going to talk about what system I'm going to use moving forward on my channel. So like I said, I've been using tropical, but we're going to talk about sidereal and tropical and compare them and see which one I will be using on my channel moving forward. So let's just get into this video. We're going to get straight to the point and hopefully get a clear, concise answer about tropical versus sidereal. Okay, so let's just get into it. Now we'll just start off with the first question, which is, what is astrology? I feel like this is the fundamental part of this whole thing and my channel as well. But astrology is the observation of the planets and stars and how they move, and essentially the patterns that they move in. And essentially the one quote that I would use to describe astrology, and the quote that really relates to also alchemy and like esoteric knowledge, is as above, so below. So I feel like the stars and the firmament and the planets are essentially like the cosmic mirror to Earth. So whatever is happening in the stars and the planets reflects back on Earth. For example, right now we're having Jupiter conjunct Pluto, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn all conjunct each other. So those are three very powerful celestial planets in the sky, and they're influencing the Earth very powerfully right now. Obviously, the current virus that's going around, as well as truth being revealed left and right. Pluto does rule transformation as well, so there's a lot of transformation. Saturn is about regulation and justice, and then Jupiter is about truth, right? So we're seeing all of those major themes of all of those major planets affect Earth right now. So that's one really great manifestation and accurate manifestation of as above, so below. So essentially, as above, so below is what astrology is to me, and truly the definition of it is just the observation of the planets and how they affect the Earth. So let's get into the deviation between this whole debacle between tropical and sidereal. So we'll get into the facts of each one, so tropical and sidereal, and then we'll just kind of decide at the end which one is more accurate from the facts we present right now. So first things first, I'll start with tropical. So tropical, just to put it in a pretty straightforward way, is based on the seasons. It's based on the equinox. That is what tropical is based on. Now tropical is a very heliocentric perception of the movement of the planets. So in tropical, we look at the sun and the relationship of the sun to the Earth, and so that's why in tropical we pay so much attention to sun signs, and Western astrology is all about sun signs, whereas we'll see later sidereal stresses different planets and their importance a little bit differently. But tropical is very sun-centric. It's focused on the self, it's focused on the identity, personality, the ego, which is what represents the sun. And then the seasons are divvied up into 4 seasons, right? So at the beginning of spring, we have Aries season. At the beginning of summer, we have Cancer season. At the beginning of fall, we have Libra season. And at the beginning of winter, we have Capricorn season. So Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn are the cardinal signs, and they start those seasons. And within the 4 seasons, there are 3 zodiac signs. So I feel like with tropical astrology, it's definitely based on the seasons. So with the seasons, it tends to be more vague. It's not as specific as sidereal, as I will get into in a second, but just the baseline fact of tropical and what it's based on. It's based on the equinox and the relationship of the Earth to the equinox and the precession of the equinox, and really it stresses the relationship of the sun and the pattern in which the sun moves in relation to the Earth. So the sun stays in one zodiac sign for a month, so we have 12 months, so it's really on that timetable. So essentially that's tropical astrology. It's based on the seasons and the equinox. But let's talk about the fact of sidereal. So sidereal is based on the fixed stars. So again, I feel like a really good quote for all of this is as above, so below. So with sidereal, I feel like it follows that axiom or quote a little bit more closely, where the fixed stars don't move as much as the equinox. The equinox actually shifts quite a bit over thousands of years, whereas the fixed stars don't shift as much over thousands of years. And so at its base level, sidereal astrology is based on the relationship of the moon to the fixed stars, whereas tropical, like I said, it's based on the sun in relationship to the earth and the earth's seasons. It's not relating to the fixed stars at all. So I feel like with sidereal astrology, it really aligns with that quote of as above, so below. So in Vedic astrology, for example, Vedic astrology uses sidereal, and in Vedic astrology they would stress the importance of the moon sign and how the moon is shifting in relationship to the fixed stars and constellations in the sky. And with a Western astrologer, or like in Western astrology, they would stress the movement of the sun. Hence, like if you asked a Western astrologer what's more important in the chart, they might say sun sign, whereas the Vedic astrologer is for sure going to say the moon sign. So there's a huge sort of divide there between sun and moon, and so sidereal really stresses that importance of the moon. More specifically, Vedic astrology stresses the importance of the moon. So ultimately we can really chalk up sidereal astrology to being based on the fixed stars, the fixed constellations in the sky, not based on the seasons, not based on the equinox, which is what tropical is doing, but it's based on the fixed constellations. And it really stresses the relationship of the moon and how that moon and the moon phases shift throughout those fixed constellations, whereas tropical is stressing how the sun moves throughout the seasons, if that makes sense. So let's get into the sort of like synthesis of these two things and which one I'll use on my channel, and sort of like the philosophical view of each one. So I feel like with the sidereal astrology, it gets a lot more deeper. It allows you to delve deeper into your chart and see a much more complex view of your chart. And that is because I feel like the game-changing part of this is the constellations. Now, to get more into Vedic astrology does recognize the 27 lunar mansions, aka the 27 Nakshatras. So the Nakshatras are such a game changer because they are the specific constellations within each zodiac sign. So for example, there is the constellation of Aquarius. However, in the sky, there are two smaller constellations that are contained within Aquarius. So in Vedic astrology, Aquarius isn't just Aquarius. It's not just a general sign like it is in Western astrology. It contains the nakshatras or lunar mansions of Dhanishta as well as Shadabahisha. So those are two different constellations that manifest very differently, hence why a lot of Aquarius won't relate to every single Aquarius person or every single Aquarius generalization, because there's two different archetypes within the one Aquarius archetype, which is pretty mind-blowing. So just imagine there's 27 of those smaller archetypes within the 12 general archetypes. So that's really what was the game changer for me when it comes to sidereal and Vedic astrology, or I mean sidereal and tropical astrology. But I really appreciate the Vedic perspective, where it does recognize those lunar mansions within the general constellation. So I feel like in Western astrology, we kind of generalize, for example, Leos, or we generalize Geminis, but there's smaller constellations and more divided particular archetypes within the general constellation, if that makes sense. So it's really following that axiom of as above, so below. So if you're someone born in, let's say you're an Aquarius moon and your moon is like in tropical, like 26 degrees Aquarius, that means you are Dhanishta Nakshatra. That means Dhanishta is your birth star. So Dhanishta is going to be the archetype and the constellation that is affecting you most during this lifetime on Earth. And if you look up Dhanishta and research Dhanishta, you'll really relate to that archetype and the ancient wisdom attached with it. So we'll get into nakshatras and lunar mansions and stuff later on my channel. But in the meantime, there's this really great book that does talk about the 27 lunar mansions or nakshatras. That's what it's called in Sanskrit, I think. But there's this book called 27 Celestial Portals, and it's written by Prash Trivedi. I'll link it down below. Here he is on the back. He's actually, I think he's Dhanishta as well. But so for example, I mentioned Dhanishta, so it has like a whole chapter on Dhanishta, and not just Dhanishta obviously, but every single constellation within the sky that is contained within the zodiac sign. So if you're really not relating to the generalization of your sun sign, of your moon sign, that's when sidereal astrology really comes to the rescue, because it really specifies and really gets in deep to what your archetype truly is, whereas I feel like Western is just very general. It doesn't get deep at all. It's almost like I feel like Western, this is my own personal theory, but I feel like Western is like your matrix sort of personality, like your personality as it's projected onto you and what you kind of grow up with, especially like in the Western world, because the Western world is very egocentric and self-centered and very sun-centric, right? But if you go to more like the eastern side of the world, it does focus more on those moon sort of traits, which is like another video. But I feel like the Western chart is just very superficial and doesn't get too deep. That's basically it. But if you guys read this book and just like every single day maybe read a different chapter, you'll get a good idea of your birth star, of the energies that impact the earth, as above so below. So for example, like I said, Denisha is right here, and then the Denisha chapter talks about where the name comes from, the deities, the whole history of it, the behaviors. So this is such a gem. I love this book so much. It explains it so well and so straightforwardly. And so it's really exciting to see what specific lunar mansion out of the 27 is really influencing your chart in this incarnation that you're in currently. So we all have different nakshatras. Some of us have the same nakshatras, but it's really interesting to see the nakshatra or lunar mansion of your moon sign and see how much it actually resonates with you. It's actually kind of mind-blowing. So I'll link down below the Vedic astrology calculator so you guys can see your nakshatras. I'll link down below the sidereal astrology chart too. But I feel like your sidereal chart, you're gonna see it and you're not gonna like it right away. It's not like, oh my gosh, I love that, or oh my gosh, that's totally me. I feel like it's something you really have to just sit down with and like look at in a very logical way. And it's a huge jump and almost like a very like culture shock of a thing to go from like a Western chart to a sidereal chart, or even like a Vedic chart. But as it stands right now in history, I feel like it's such a necessary jump to kind of consider other levels of consciousness as it pertains to astrology and not just stick to one system. And with that being said, I will be using sidereal moving forward on my channel. I just feel like at this time and like on my journey, and as I've kind of studied the trends of the collective and society, I feel like the truth is needed right now. I feel like alignment is needed right now. I feel like the two key words with the status of society right now is alignment and distortion. So in the Western world especially, there's been a lot of distortion of truth, a lot of distortion of reality, and just like it's just a mess, right? I feel like we're in this big muddled mess, but in order to get out of that mess, we have to be in alignment, especially in alignment with our own truth, in alignment with the divine truth. So at this point, I do feel like sidereal is in alignment with the divine truth, so I will be using it going forward on my channel. You guys don't have to necessarily believe in your sidereal chart right now, but I feel like it is good to delve deeper into your sidereal signs, your sidereal lunar mansions, what constellations are influencing you, and really open your mind to that sort of thing. And I'm not going to force anyone to like join sidereal or like go to sidereal if they really don't want to. But when it comes to tropical and sidereal, I will say that tropical is a valid system. There are very excellent tropical astrologers. There's excellent sidereal astrologers. So however, right now I feel like sidereal is more of where I want to take my channel, where I want to be, and so I'm really excited to move forward with sidereal on my channel. So I'll link down everything relevant down below. You guys like literally have to get this book. I feel like it's so amazing and it really opens your mind in a crazy way. So I'll link this down below. I'll link down everything relevant, and in my next video we will be doing the August predictions with sidereal astrology. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys in my next video.